Hi everyone, Lisa Haven here. Well, whistleblower Edward Snowden has just released a dire warning to the American people, a warning that he wasn't supposed to talk about. Now, before I get into the report, I just want to issue a quick reminder. Please don't forget to check out my partner at noblegoldinvestments.com. If you guys have not converted your 401k or got your Roth IRA, today is the day to do that because right now they are giving away this amazing Morgan coin, and this is just a collector's item, a keeper, if you will. And this thing is absolutely awesome. But right now you can get that with any approved IRA. So check it out at noblegoldinvestments.com or give them a call today at 1-877-646-5347. All right, so let's move on to this warning that was issued by whistleblower Edward Snowden. We'll take a look at this article, and this is on Zero Hedge. Did you agree to this? Everybody is locked up. Edward Snowden on the power of Silicon Valley amid the COVID lockdowns. Now, the article goes on to state a new video montage of recently interviews with former NSA contractor and whistleblower Edward Snowden exposes how the global COVID-19 pandemic lockdowns, which have been particularly severe and far-reaching in Western countries like the United Kingdom, Canada, and a number of majority U.S. cities, coupled with the already immense power of Silicon Valley and its allies in the national security state, have served to keep individuals and entire populations gated off from one another. And he says, quote, "This is just the beginning," Snowden warns, "of unprecedented times. All these things today have consequences which we were not informed about." And he goes on, "I would say this is sort of unusual. We're all spread all over the world in different rooms. Everybody's locked up. But for me, this is how I've always lived." Now I'm going to pause right here. There's a couple powerful points that he's making here. And he's saying, first of all these COVID restrictions that you're seeing is just the beginning. This is the exact same thing I've been saying from the get-go. Once you allow this kind of power in the hands of government, ruling elite, whoever is in charge, they very rarely, if ever, I would suggest never really, give up that power. It's like the power hungry want more power, and once they have it, they keep it. What that means is very likely in the future, we can see these restrictions on and off, on and off, on and off, which will have dire consequences in the long term, which we've already seen via the COVID-19 pandemic. We literally have 17 million people out of work. We're in another Great Depression 2.0 in the United States of America, and countries are literally collapsing because of all the restrictions that they have placed, not because of COVID-19 itself, but because of what our government has done. And I'm going to stand on that principle. But Snowden goes on to say this, and he continues, "The institutional powers of our day, which have assumed for themselves some mandates, whether to conduct business, whether it's to govern the lives of others, whether it's to make war, these institutional powers don't seem to particularly care about your answer to that question. Is this what you wanted? Is this okay? Did you agree?" The answer is frequently you don't have a choice as to whether or not you agree with these mandates, restrictions, or new rules and regulations by the government because they have the gun, they have the baton, and Facebook would say, click OK to continue. And if you don't, you can't do anything about it. Right? And he goes on, because they, Facebook, big tech, control the policy, and through the policy, they control the platform, and through the platform, they control the public. Now, that's a very powerful statement. They control the public, how they view, what they say, because if you can control what's seen and what goes up somebody's feed, what's allowed, what isn't allowed, then you're, in a sense, controlling on a massive platform like Facebook and Twitter and Google and Instagram. You're literally controlling the view of the American people. He makes a powerful point there. But he goes on, they exercise some great level of influence over it by gating you off, separating us from the things that we need to do to connect and engage in just what is considered today a normal life. It is time that we recognize these are forced choices. Forced. And I think that's another powerful point because he makes a lot of sense here, right? And he says this. He says, these are forced choices. And what he means by that is when your government says, we're going to lock down your business that you worked hard on, that you spent so much money and poured so much livelihood into, we're going to close it. That's a forced choice. You had no say in the matter. You didn't get to vote on it. You didn't have a word in it. They just said, we're going to use emergency powers and we're going to close it down. This is you without a voice, without a say. Did we, the American people, agree to this, or did they just take it? And it was taken from us. And now, since it's been allowed already, it's going to continue to be taken off and on in the future. And as you've seen, there are Democrats right now who are still in charge, mayors and governors and congressional leaders who are still having massive restrictions on their population that are literally killing their cities. This is why there is literally a mass exodus from the states of New York, from the city of New York specifically, and from California, because they have some of the most stringent restrictions. Same with, areas like Chicago, right? We were forced on these decisions. Same thing with Facebook and Twitter. They are picking what information you get to hear. This is a tyrant saying, you don't get to have that choice. You're not smart enough to decide what information is good for you and what information is bad for you. So we're going to take up the mantle and do it for you. And as it turns out, by Facebook, Twitter, and all these social media sites, they've been choosing that conservative and Christians and libertarians and Republicans and Trump supporting content is not good for you. Only the far left, radical, democratic, cancel culture reality is what they're literally shoving in your face. So Edward Snowden is sounding an alarm that I've been sounding for a while, but he isn't wrong. It's being forcefully taken from us. Our rights, our ability to choose on our own, our ability to decide how we handle things in our own personal businesses. It's like everything belongs to the elite few, and they could just do whatever they want, whenever they want, however they want. Now, Edward Snowden also said this a little earlier, and I want to show you this as well. But this is back on April 9th, 2020. And here's a report that got put out saying Edward Snowden says COVID-19 could give governments invasive new data collection powers that could last longer even after the pandemic. And obviously they have that power because now there's literally talks about some kind of our medical information being on some kind of card, vaccine passport, or whatever. And all this contact tracing. This is a massive invasion, and it's already going on. And it's not going to go away. Now, one final thought that I want to show you in that same article from Zero Hedge that Edward Snowden said is this. What we're seeing today is a divorce between the individual and the institution in terms of power and accountability. Speaking of world leaders and global ruling elite, Edward Snowden urges awareness of the immensely alarming reality that has blindly crept into society. We need to recognize that, he says, that there seems to be nothing that they can do that results in them facing serious consequences, right? Whereas the smallest infractions of our lives that can even be civil rather than criminal are instantly crystallized and memorialized at the moment of that mistake and captured into a permanent record that's held and controlled by these groups, whether they are commercial or governmental. Now, I think that whole thing is powerful, but this is absolutely huge, where he says basically these leading authorities are doing whatever they want, rewriting rules the day before the election, so to speak, as some states have done, with no regard to the rule of law, because state legislators are supposed to handle that. They've been sideswiping it, making rules. The Supreme Court says, nah, we're not going to take the case. That means that our leaders are literally doing what they want without any consequence by any of the courts, right? We've seen a lot of this with the election. Here we have Forbes.com. The Supreme Court refuses to consider GOP post-election cases before Biden takes office, and they've really denied a lot of these. Here's the Supreme Court denying motions to expedite post-election cases. The court also denied Powell's lawsuit challenging, and they denied her current lawsuit, right? Not only that, but here's another one. Supreme Court refuses to hear GOP election case from Pennsylvania. And then, of course, also the Supreme Court declined to hear Texas case ending Trump's effort to overturn the election. And a lot of these happened. There is over 8, don't quote me, but about 8 cases that the Supreme Court have now denied to hear with regard to the U.S. election. If the people in the United States of America have questions about the election, you want that voter confidence in people, then the Supreme Court should at least take the cases. But that's not what's happening here. So as Edward Snowden said, right, there's no consequences for many in the ruling class, for many who are in the government. Take, for example, this kind of stuff as well. This is on azmirror.com. Maricopa County, the Board of Supervisors rejected Senate's election subpoena demands, right? We're just going to ignore your subpoenas and we're not going to give you what you need, right? That's literally what they did. And let's take what Governor Whitmer did. This is the Detroit News. Whitmer slams Supreme Court ruling, warns others could continue, right? In other words, she went beyond what the Supreme Court ruling on her COVID restrictions, and she just went ahead and did them anyway through alternative sources, right? So this is why I think the warnings by Edward Snowden need to be taken to heart. And look, these are the kinds of things that I've been talking about on Restricted Republic, right? If you're not over there, I have to tell you, Edward Snowden and everybody else is warning about conservatives and libertarians being gone off of these platforms like YouTube and Google and Facebook. And I want to encourage you, you got to get on over there. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. And right now we've got a 14-day free trial just to try it out. You've got a yearly option, you've got a monthly option, but you can cancel whenever you want. It's a great way to support what I do here on the air and a great way to get that inside information. And we published exclusive content on Restricted Republic, as well as our YouTube videos there without any commercials. So check it out at restrictedrepublic.com. Anyhow, thanks again for tuning in. I love all of you. I'm Lisa Haven, signing out.